Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of my fantasy football YouTube channel. This time, we're going to talk about Dynasty stashes. I have 4 of them for you today. But before we start with the video, make sure to like, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support me on YouTube. With that said, let's get into our first stash. Our cover player, Carson Wentz. I talked about him a bit on a previous video, but I cannot stress this enough, and I brought you some data to back it up. Backup quarterbacks in Superflex leagues are the best stashes, especially the ones that we know are the backup and on good offenses. Let's look at something. 66 quarterbacks started a game in 2023. Not 50, 66, more than double the number of 32 teams. And in case you think that's unusual, 68 started in 2022. So this happens every single year, not just last year, not just 2022, every year. Now, as for Wentz specifically, he didn't do much for the Rams in 2023. They signed him when Matthew Stafford had some injury issues, but Stafford, I think, returned to the lineup faster than normal. Wentz only started 1 game, 17 of 24 passing, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Not much there. But even after his Eagles career flamed out, he wasn't terrible in 2021 for the Colts. 62.4% completion, 27 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions, unlike Wentz there. 6.9 yards per attempt, 9-8 record. I think if he had made the playoffs, hadn't flamed out in that last week, he might have held that job for another year. But as we know, he was traded to the Commanders for the 2022 season, where he wasn't as good. Same completion percentage, but just 11 touchdowns, 9 picks, 6.4 yards per attempt, 2.5 record. And then he was benched. So was not good there. Now, in Kansas City, of course, things might be a little different. We know Andy Reid is a great offensive coach. We know that. We know that the Chiefs have improving offensive weapons. They won the Super Bowl last year. Now they added Hollywood Brown. They're going to draft a wide receiver. The only question is whether it's in round 1 or round 2. Wentz is not old for a quarterback. He turns 32 in December. Now, is he ever going to hold true dynasty value again? Probably not. But this is the type of player, post-rookie draft cuts, he'll be cut in some leagues because people will need the spot. I would pick him up because this is the type of player you want to hold. Look ahead in May for what you're going to want in September. Hold during the season. And Carson Wentz is a perfect example of that type of player for me. Next up, Xavier Gipson. I've talked about him a couple of times, but I want to mention him again because after the Jets signed Mike Williams, I think people forgot about Gipson. But his 2023 campaign was impressive as a UDFA rookie. He had 21 catches for 229 yards, 8 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown, and he chipped in as a returner, including some high-profile plays, that one big touchdown as well. From week 9 forward, he played 58% of snaps on offense or more in all but 1 game. He became a starter, sent Allen Lazard to the bench. And of course, he managed to chip in even with the committee of Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, and quarterback who all suck. Of course, this year, Aaron Rodgers will be back, and quarterback 2, Tyrod Taylor, would be a massive upgrade from any of the Jets' 2023 quarterbacks. Gipson is just 23 years old in May. I do expect the Jets to potentially add a day 3 wide receiver in this draft because they have 5 day 3 picks. But I don't expect them to take a wide receiver at 10 or 72 overall. There are only 2 picks in rounds 1 and 3. Most mocks have given them Brock Bowers at 10. That makes sense. But I do think that Gipson has a path to pass Mike Williams for the wide receiver 2 role, even if that's not the most likely outcome. He might be the wide receiver 3. Williams missed most of last season with his ACL tear, turns 30 in October, and is on a 1-year deal. There is no commitment to Mike Williams, no guarantee about Mike Williams. If we're going to stash young wide receivers in this range, who are usually not my preference, Superflex leagues, as we said, I like quarterbacks. I always like running backs, but if it's going to be a wide receiver, I prefer those who have a path to playing time, who got on the field as rookies, and who displayed explosiveness or upside. Gipson fits all of those, all 3 metrics that I laid down. So if we're talking about a wide receiver stash, he would be high on my list. Next up, Evan Hall. And I think a lot of people have forgotten about Hall too. The Colts selected about him in the 5th round of the 2023 NFL draft. But he only played one game before he suffered a season-ending meniscus injury. With Jonathan Taylor's contract and injury issues and Deion Jackson's struggles, Hall definitely could have had a role in 2023. He was a great receiving prospect coming into the NFL from Northwestern. Even if as a rusher, he was just okay. Let's take a look at it. In 2021 in college, 196 carries, 1,009 yards, and 7 touchdowns, 5.1 yards a carry. That's not great, but 33 catches for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's good. For college running back, that's really good. Then in 2022, more carries, but fewer yards. So that's bad. Just 5 touchdowns and 221 carries is also bad. But 55 catches, that's really good. 546 yards on those 55 catches, that's also really good. Almost 10 yards a catch and 2 touchdowns. 33 catches like he had in 2021 is impressive for a college running back. Most never even break 30. 55 catches like he had in 2022 is almost unheard of for all but the best receiving running back prospects. It happens once in a while, but it's rare. So Hall's value would mostly come as a receiver, but he is 209 pounds. He's not small. So it would allow him to take hits and be a runner at the NFL level if necessary. Would he excel in that role or show explosiveness or burst? No, we haven't seen that. He hasn't shown that. But it doesn't mean that he wouldn't be okay in that role. And sometimes as the backup, that's all you need to be is okay, even if he's more of a compliment. Right now, the Colts running back depth chart has Jonathan Taylor as RB1, of course, then Evan Hull, and Trey Sermon. Now, while Taylor's contract, he signed that long-term contract, is not massive, it's a solid commitment through 2025. The Colts are committed essentially to Jonathan Taylor as their starter for the next 2 years. Therefore, essentially no Colts mock drafts, I haven't seen a single one, where they take a running back on day 2. Have not seen that. Any team can take a day 3 running back any year, just like the Colts did with Evan Hull last year. Teams take day 3 running backs almost every year. I expect the Colts to do so, to have some competition for Hull and Sermon. Does that mean that the competition would be ahead of Hull? Depends on who it is. If it's someone good we like on day 4, round 4, yeah, probably. If it's some random guy in round 6 or 7, probably not. Because I think Hull has a skill set that player probably won't have had. Either way, Hull's receiving ability makes him an ideal complement to Taylor's workhorse profile. He's essentially forgotten right now. Another player, I think, especially if the Colts draft someone in round 5, will be dropped after rookie drafts. I would not want to do that. So definitely a stash for me. Lastly, Daniel Bellinger. And I kind of feel bad for him. He had a great rookie season, despite having his eye poked out in the middle of it. He only missed 5 games for that. I thought it would be season ending. It was stunning to me that he came back as fast as he did. He was solid on the opportunities he had. In 12 games, he just had 30 catches, 268 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 85.7% catch rate. That's really good. And he also had a carry for 2 yards and touchdown. Unfortunately, instead of addressing the wide receiver room, which was, as we know, the big weakness for the Giants, they chose to add Darren Waller for the 2023 season, taking Bellinger out of a role. So in playing all 17 games, and even with Waller missing some time, he only had 25 catches for 255 yards, but he caught 89.3% of his catches. So he's been a reliable target on all the targets he's received in his career. Solid contributor. Now, just very unfortunate that outside of, 5 examples in the history of the NFL, 2 tight ends cannot be fantasy relevant or anywhere near it on the same roster. But we know that Darren Waller is considering retirement. That he said he was going to retire, and then he wasn't going to retire, and then he was going to retire. We don't know. I'll believe it one way or another when I see he either shows up training camp or he doesn't. But if he doesn't, then that would give a boost to Bellinger. Either way, Waller turns 32 in September. Hasn't played more than 12 games since 2020. He's not someone that you can count on. So as for Bellinger, unlike wide receivers who usually hit right away or never do, wide receivers almost always in year 1, at the latest year 2, give you real production that matter on an NFL field. Tight ends, not always the case. Yes, you have your Sam Laporters, but you also have your Darren Wallers, who took, I don't even know how many years to break out. David Njoku breaking out in year 5 or 6. Sometimes it comes from just finding the right opportunity or situation because you can get stuck behind someone. Dallas Goedert was just stuck behind Zach Ertz for many years. He didn't do anything, And then he was pretty good once Ertz left. Bellinger was good as a rookie. He still turns just 24 in September. Plus, he has athleticism. He's big, 6'5", 253 pounds. Big for the position. That's good. Even better, he was 4'6'3", 40-yard dash time at that weight. That's good. That is athletic. So he has size. He has athleticism. And he's proven that he can play in the NFL. He's a forgotten player that is worth stashing, especially if you're in a tight end premium league. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for watching. And make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to support what I'm doing here on the YouTube channel. Now, of course, to support my content in general, many ways to do that. There's the Buy Me a Coffee, where you can just ask a one-time question. But more importantly, there's the Patreon, where you can, that link right up there, where you can get my rankings. You can ask advanced questions for the YouTube, which we're going to go over right now, and where you can interact in my Patreon Discord and put in Dynasty trades for my Dynasty trade breakdown shows. But with that said, let's get into the 2 Patreon questions we have for this episode. If I get a trade offer I like, but I'm trying to get a little more, instead of countering, I send a new offer. If it's declined, I can just accept the original offer. What's your thoughts on this? In general, this type of thing is very transparent. If you leave the original offer up, it's obvious that you're still open to it, right? It doesn't work as a negotiating strategy. You're essentially laying out all your cards on the table for your opponent to see. I don't do this. I either just get aggressive with my counter. Unless I really like the original offer, and sometimes I do, then I just take it. I get aggressive. I just make the counter. And then we'll see. Maybe we can meet in the middle. But if I wasn't super happy with the original offer enough to counter, I don't need to leave the original offer up. I just make the counter. Don't give away how I felt about it, because if I just make the counter, it doesn't give away that if I thought the original offer was close, not close. I like to keep my cards very close. So that's the best way to strategize. I usually don't do this type of thing. Favorite buy low older running backs, my least favorite thing to discuss. And what would be the price to send? I hate it. I hate it. I hate buying older running backs low. It's usually not a good strategy, because I can't think of a single time that the running backs have come at the value I lay out on my Patreon value chart. The running backs always cost more than I want to pay. I can't remember that I've ever bought an older running back in like my entire Dynasty career. Maybe they've been thrown in as a part of a trade that was bigger, just to kind of, had to have something else. But just buying it directly, older running back for a pick, can't remember ever doing that. So typically, it's not the right move. They lose value very quickly. You never know when the floor is just going to completely fall out. You see your Dalvin Cooks. You just don't know. It's very hard to predict that. People have not had success predicting when the floor is going to come out for older running backs. It's just not something that we've had a good track record in predicting. So I usually just err on the safe side and say that any running back over 28 could have all their value lost very quickly. So yeah, in general, I don't do it. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be the cheaper ones. So not Derrick Henry and probably not Alvin Kamara. Much more likely to buy someone like Raheem Mostert over those two, just because the price is going to be a lot cheaper. But that wraps up our show for today. If you liked, like I said, if you liked what we're doing here, these videos, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That's the best way to support the channel and to support each individual video. The likes and comments really help with the algorithm and just viewing till the end. And once again, I want to thank everyone for watching, all of your support on the channel. I've really enjoyed doing this content this off season, bringing you all the extra content and just news and everything. And I'm really excited to keep this going for the rest of 2024. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later. Peace out.